The jungle of Tertius 7 burned with an orange glow as plasma fire cut through the dense canopy. Staff Sergeant Marcus Rivera pressed his back against the twisted trunk of an alien tree, his rifle warm in his hands. Around him the night exploded with the sounds of combat. "Contact right," shouted Lieutenant Threx, the Valorian squad leader. His 4 arms worked independently, 2 firing his weapon while the other 2 gestured commands to the team. Marcus had been embedded with this Coalition Special Operations Unit for 3 months now. Tonight was supposed to be simple. Extract 1 intelligence asset. Get out clean. Nothing was ever simple. Marcus leaned out and fired 3 controlled bursts. Across the clearing, a Crithian warrior's chitinous armor cracked and the creature fell. The Crithians were insectoid nightmares, each one standing 7 feet tall with 4 blade-like limbs and mandibles that could snap steel. They moved fast, too fast, like a swarm of angry hornets. The intel was wrong. Threx's translator crackled with static and fear. There should only be a dozen guards. There are hundreds. Marcus counted bodies in his head as he reloaded. Threx was right. This wasn't a small outpost. This was a trap. Corporal Jin, a reptilian Serothi, took 3 plasma bolts to the chest. His scales, tough enough to stop small arms fire, melted like wax. He didn't even scream, just fell forward into the mud. "Fall back to the secondary extraction point," Threx ordered. The team moved as one. Marcus covered the rear, his training kicking in automatically. Move, shoot, communicate. The basics never changed even on an alien world fighting alien enemies. His rifle barked steadily. Every shot counted. Every shot had to count because his ammunition wasn't infinite and the enemy kept coming. Private Kess, a floating jellyfish-like creature from some world Marcus couldn't pronounce, drifted too slowly. A Crithian blade arm caught her membrane body and tore through. Her bioluminescence flickered once, twice, then went dark. "They are flanking us," someone shouted. Marcus saw the movement to the left. He pulled a grenade from his vest, thumbed the activator, and threw it in one smooth motion. The explosion lit up the jungle and bought them 5 seconds. 5 seconds to run, but there was nowhere to run to. The Crithians had herded them like animals. Marcus realized it with a cold clarity that came from years of combat. Every route they took, every decision Threx made, it pushed them deeper into the killing zone. This wasn't random. This was planned. "Ambush," Marcus shouted. "We walked into a deliberate ambush." Threx's eyes, all 6 of them, widened with understanding. But understanding came too late. The ground beneath them erupted. Crithian warriors burst from hidden tunnels like ants from a disturbed nest. They were surrounded. Sergeant Dorn, a massive bear-like Ursidian, roared and charged. His strength was legendary. He grabbed a Crithian and literally tore it in half. Then another. Then 5 more swarmed him and pulled him down. His roar became a gurgle, then silence. Marcus's rifle clicked empty. He dropped it, drew his sidearm, and kept firing. Muscle memory, training, he didn't think anymore. He just acted. Threx went down next, overwhelmed by sheer numbers. The Valorian fought with all 4 arms until the last moment, taking 3 Crithians with him. Then it was just Marcus. He stood in a circle of dead Crithians. His pistol was empty. He drew his knife. It was a simple K-bar, 7 inches of steel made on Earth. It looked primitive compared to the plasma weapons and molecular blades around him. But it had never jammed, never needed batteries, and never let him down. A Crithian lunged. Marcus sidestepped, grabbed one of its blade arms and drove his knife through the joint. The creature shrieked. He twisted, used its body as a shield against 2 more attackers, then pushed it forward and rolled away. Another came from his blind spot. He took a hit to his shoulder, felt the blade arm slice through his armor and into muscle. Pain exploded white-hot through his body. But pain was just information. His instructors had beaten that lesson into him during Hell Week. Pain tells you that you're alive. Use it. He spun inside the Crithian's reach and stabbed upward, finding the soft spot where the head met the thorax. The creature spasmed and died. Marcus counted 6 more surrounding him. His shoulder bled freely. His knife was slick with alien blood. His breathing came hard and fast, but his eyes were calm. "Come on," he said quietly. They rushed him together. He killed 2 more before they finally brought him down. A blade arm hit his leg, shattering something that made his knee stop working. He fell. They piled on top of him, pinning him to the mud. Marcus fought anyway, bucking, twisting, trying to create space. A human survival instinct older than civilization itself. Never stop fighting. Something hard cracked against his skull. Stars burst across his vision. Through the ringing in his ears, he heard a voice. It spoke in clicks and hisses, but his translator implant rendered it into English. This one fights well. Take him alive. The Inquisitor will want to speak with this creature. Rough appendages grabbed him, bound his wrist with something that felt organic and wrong. They hauled him to his feet. His wounded leg wouldn't support his weight, so they dragged him. Marcus looked back at the battlefield. His entire squad lay dead. Good soldiers. Warriors from a dozen different worlds. All dead because someone had betrayed them. Someone had given the Crithians their mission parameters, their route, their timing. As they pulled him toward awaiting transport, he caught sight of Threx's body. The Valorian's upper right hand still clutched his comm unit. Even in death, he had been trying to warn someone. The transport was a bioship, all organic curves and pulsing membranes. It smelled like rotten meat and sulfur. They threw Marcus inside a small chamber that immediately sealed behind him with a wet squelching sound. He sat in the darkness, breathing slowly, assessing his injuries. The shoulder was bad but not fatal. The knee was worse, probably a shattered patella. His head throbbed where they had struck him. Possible concussion, but he was alive, and being alive meant opportunities. Marcus closed his eyes and focused. His neural implant, a gift from Earth's military to all personnel operating off-world, was still functioning. He could feel it, a slight pressure at the base of his skull. The Crithians clearly didn't know about it or didn't care. He activated it with a thought. A dead man's switch. Every SEAL knew the protocol. If captured, if compromised, if there was even a chance of enemy intelligence gathering, you activated the switch. It would broadcast your biometrics, your location, everything your implant could detect. It would tell Earth that one of their own was in enemy hands. The message sent silently, invisibly, carried on quantum channels the Crithians had no idea. Existed. Marcus opened his eyes in the darkness and smiled. They thought they had captured him. They had no idea what they had really done. They had just told Earth exactly where to find him, and Earth had a very simple policy when it came to captured personnel. No one gets left behind ever. The transport shuddered as it lifted off, carrying him away from the battlefield, away from his dead teammates, deeper into enemy territory. Marcus leaned his head back against the wet organic wall and whispered two words into the darkness. They'll come. Marcus woke to pain. It was a familiar friend by now. 3 days, maybe 4, he had lost count. Time moved differently in the belly of a bioship. The chamber they kept him in was small, barely large enough to stand. The walls pulsed with a slow rhythm like breathing. Sometimes they secreted a thin liquid that might have been food or medicine or poison. Marcus didn't touch it. He had his training. He could survive 2 weeks without food if needed. Water was different, and they gave him that in small amounts, enough to keep him alive. The door membrane split open with a wet sound. 2 Crithian guards entered, their blade arms folded against their bodies. They grabbed Marcus roughly and dragged him out. His injured leg scraped against the floor. He didn't make a sound. They pulled him through corridors that twisted like intestines. Other Crithians stopped to watch as he passed. Their compound eyes reflected no emotion Marcus could read. To them, he was probably just another specimen, another alien creature to be studied and discarded. The guards threw him into a larger chamber. This one had proper lighting, harsh and bright. Marcus's eyes adjusted slowly. In the center of the room stood a Crithian larger than the others. Its carapace was darker, almost black, with markings that might have been scars or rank insignia. I am Vexthor, the creature said. Its mandibles clicked with each word, even through the translation. I am Inquisitor of the Third Fleet. You are my guest. Marcus said nothing. Name, rank, service number. That's all they were required to give under the laws of war. Of course, the Crithians didn't recognize those laws. To them, war was total. No prisoners, no mercy, no quarter, except when they wanted information. You are human. Vexthor continued, circling Marcus slowly. I have studied your species. You are new to the coalition, weak, your biology is fragile. You require specific atmospheric conditions, specific temperatures, specific nutrients. You are emotional creatures dependent on social bonds and tribal connections. Vexthor leaned closer. You are easy to break. Marcus met the Inquisitor's gaze. He had looked into the eyes of worse monsters. At least this one was honest about what it was. "I will ask questions," Vexthor said. "You will answer. If you do not answer, there will be consequences." The interrogation began. Vexthor wanted fleet movements, defensive positions, Earth's military capabilities. Standard questions. Marcus gave standard responses. Nothing. Silence. Name, rank, service number when pressed. The consequences started small. Pressure points that made his injuries scream, then electric shocks that made every muscle in his body seize, then something injected into his bloodstream that felt like fire and ice at the same time. Marcus had been through SEER training, survival, evasion, resistance, escape. They had prepared him for this. Not the exact methods, but the principle. Pain was temporary. Information was forever. Every minute he stayed silent was another minute for his people to find him. Hours passed. Maybe days. The sessions blurred together. Vexthor grew frustrated. Marcus could hear it in the clicks and hisses that escaped between translated words. The Inquisitor had broken others before. Coalition soldiers who gave up their secrets after a few hours of questioning. Why was this human different? "You cannot win," Vexthor said during one session. "Your body is failing. I can see it. Your wounds are infected. Your water ration is minimal. You will die here if you do not cooperate." Marcus smiled. It was the first real expression he had shown since capture. That smile seemed to unnerve Vexthor more than anything else. The Inquisitor left, returning sometime later with a datapad. "I have been researching your kind more thoroughly," he said. "Humans have extensive military records. You upload everything to your networks. Your security is inadequate." Vexthor tapped the pad with a blade arm. "You are not just any human. You are Special Operations, a unit called Navy SEALs. Your designation is Staff Sergeant Marcus Rivera." Marcus kept his face neutral, but internally he was calculating. If they had hacked military databases, they might know more than he wanted them to know. "You have a call sign," Vexthor continued. "This is common among your special forces. Names earned through deeds, yes? Your file says you are called Reaper." The Inquisitor pronounced the word carefully as if tasting it. "What does this mean?" "Reaper?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke for the first time since his capture, his voice rough from disuse. "You're about to find out." Vexthor's mandibles clicked rapidly. "A threat? You are bound, injured, alone, deep in Crithian territory. You are nothing. You are defeated." "Sure," Marcus said. His smile returned. Vexthor struck him then, a sharp blow that sent Marcus to the floor. "You will tell me what I want to know." Marcus spit blood and looked up. "No, I won't." The interrogation continued. More pain, more questions, more silence from Marcus. But something had changed. Vexthor's frustration had turned to something else. Uncertainty, maybe, or the beginning of fear, because Vexthor had made a mistake. He had looked at Marcus's file. He had seen the numbers. 200 confirmed kills across a dozen different operations. Missions that should have been impossible, completed successfully. A warrior forged in the most brutal training Earth could devise, tempered in the fires of real combat, and Vexthor had started to wonder what kind of species created soldiers like that. What Marcus didn't know was that his neural implant had been working perfectly since his capture. Every heartbeat, every moment of torture, every word spoken in that chamber was being recorded and transmitted. The signal was weak, designed to slip through standard scanners, but it was constant. Somewhere someone was listening. The session ended when Marcus passed out from blood loss. The guards dragged him back to his cell and threw him inside. The membrane sealed behind them. Marcus lay in the darkness, breathing slowly, managing the pain. His shoulder wound had definitely become infected. He could feel the heat of it spreading through his arm. His knee was swollen to twice its normal size. He might have a few days left, maybe less, but he had bought time. Every day he resisted was another day for intelligence to work, for rescue to be planned, for his team to find him, and they would find him. Marcus had absolute faith in that, because that's what SEALs did. They didn't leave each other behind. Not in training, not in combat, not ever. It was more than policy. It was more than doctrine. It was brotherhood. Marcus closed his eyes and thought of home. Not Earth exactly, but the team room back at Coronado, the worn furniture and the smell of gun oil, the plaques on the wall commemorating fallen teammates, the coffee that was always burnt but nobody complained, the knowledge that if you fell, Someone would pick you up if you were wounded. Someone would carry you. If you were captured, someone would come. He thought of his team leader, Lieutenant Commander Hayes, a hard man, fair, who had led from the front in a dozen combat zones. Hayes would have received the alert from Marcus's implant by now, and Hayes would be planning. Somewhere far away across the stars, wheels were turning. Plans were being made. Warriors were preparing. Marcus smiled again in the darkness. Soon, he whispered. Vexthor didn't know it yet, but he had made a fatal error. He had captured a human operator, and humans had a reputation they were building across the galaxy. They never stopped fighting. They never gave up. And they never, ever left their own behind. The bioship continued its journey through space, carrying Marcus deeper into Crithian territory, carrying him toward whatever fate awaited, but also carrying a signal, a silent scream across the void, a signal that said one simple thing: come get me. The footage appeared on the Galactic Network at 0347 Coalition Standard Time. Nobody knew how it got there at first. Later investigations would trace it to a dozen different sources, uploaded simultaneously from anonymous nodes scattered across 3 sectors. It showed a human being, tortured. Commander Silith of the Valorian Intelligence Corps watched the video in her office. On the Coalition station orbiting Sanctuary Prime, she had seen combat footage before, had watched soldiers die, but this was different. The human sat bound to a chair in what looked like an organic chamber. His face was bruised, swollen. Blood dripped from cuts on his arms and chest. A Crithian inquisitor circled him asking questions, administering pain when answers didn't come. The human never screamed, never begged. He just sat there breathing through it, staring at his captor with calm eyes. What is wrong with this creature? Her assistant asked. Why does it not break? Silith didn't answer. She was watching the human's face, looking for something she recognized from her own military training. Discipline, determination, the mark of a true warrior. Find out who this is, she ordered. I want his full record. The answer came back within the hour. Staff Sergeant Marcus Rivera, United States Navy SEALs. Embedded with Coalition Special Operations. Captured during a failed extraction on Tertius 7. Silith pulled his file. What she read made her mandibles click with surprise. Humans were new to the Coalition. They had joined only 5 years ago, bringing their single planet and their primitive weapons to a galaxy that had been fighting for centuries. Most species viewed them as weak. Useful for labor maybe, or basic infantry, but nothing special. This file told a different story. Marcus Rivera had served for 12 years. His record showed deployments to conflict zones whose names Silith didn't recognize. Places on Earth where humans fought each other before they reached the stars, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. The casualties listed were staggering, but it was his training that caught her attention. Navy SEAL selection had a 70% failure rate. Candidates went through 6 months of deliberate torture designed to break their bodies and minds. They were frozen, drowned, deprived of sleep for days. They carried boats on their heads, logs until their shoulders bled, ran until their feet cracked, and the ones who survived were considered ready to begin actual training. This is madness, Silith's assistant said, reading over her shoulder. They volunteer for this? They choose to be broken? Not broken, Silith corrected quietly. Forged, she continued reading. Navy SEALs specialized in impossible missions, direct action raids, hostage rescue, reconnaissance in hostile territory. They operated in small teams, often outnumbered 100 to 1, and succeeded anyway. Their motto was simple. The only easy day was yesterday. Silith looked back at the video. The human was being shocked again, his body convulsing. But when it stopped, he raised his head and met his torturer's eyes. Defiant. Now she understood why. The video spread across the galactic network like fire. Within hours, billions had seen it. Coalition member species expressed outrage at the treatment of a prisoner. Even species that barely tolerated humans found themselves disturbed by what they witnessed. But something else spread alongside the outrage. Curiosity. Who were these humans really? What made them capable of enduring such treatment? Research departments across the Coalition began digging. They found records of human military history spanning thousands of years, constant warfare, weapons that grew increasingly terrible, tactics that evolved and adapted. They found documentation of Special Operations Forces, small units trained to impossible standards, elite warriors who operated behind enemy lines. A Sarothi professor published a paper that went viral, Human Military Culture, the Professionalization of Violence. In it, she detailed how humans had turned warfare into a science, how they trained specific individuals to excel at combat, gave them the best equipment, and sent them on missions other species wouldn't dare attempt. They have warriors whose entire purpose is to do what cannot be done, the paper concluded. They call them by earned names: Ghost, Reaper, Phantom. These are not designations. These are warnings. The name Reaper became a search term across the galactic database. What did it mean? The answers came back with chilling clarity. Reaper, the harvester of souls, the collector of the dead. In human mythology, death itself carried this title, and humans gave this name to their warriors. In the Crithian fleet, rumors spread among the lower ranks. The humans had a soldier called Reaper. He had killed dozens during the ambush. He refused to break under torture. What kind of species created such beings? Vexthor dismissed the concerns. It is one creature, he told his subordinates. Alone, wounded, far from its home. It will die here, and its death will mean nothing. But privately, Vexthor wasn't so certain. He had interrogated many prisoners. All of them broke eventually. Pain, fear, isolation, these were universal tools. Every species had limits. This human seemed to have none. Vexthor pulled up the human's file again, studying it more carefully. The missions listed read like fiction: raids against fortified positions, extractions from behind enemy lines, direct action against high-value targets. Marcus Rivera had done them all, repeatedly, successfully. One mission in particular stood out. Rivera and his team had assaulted a compound held by 40 enemy combatants to rescue 2 hostages. The team numbered 6. They had succeeded without losing a single member, 6 against 40. It should have been impossible. Vexthor clicked his mandibles nervously. The Crithian military doctrine was based on overwhelming force. Swarm tactics. Numbers were everything. The idea of small units defeating larger forces through skill and tactics was alien to him. Maybe that was the problem. Humans thought differently about warfare. They didn't just fight. They studied it, perfected it, made it an art form. On Earth, in a secure facility beneath the Atlantic Ocean, a message was received. The neural implant data had been streaming for 6 days now. Intelligence analysts had tracked the bioship's course, identified the fleet it belonged to, and calculated its probable destination. More importantly, they had watched every second of Marcus Rivera's interrogation. The footage reached JSOC Joint Special Operations Command. Hard men in quiet rooms watched one of their own being tortured. They watched him refuse to break, refuse to talk, refuse to give the enemy anything. They watched him smile when asked about his call sign. "Get me the mission planning cell," Admiral Harker said quietly, "and get me SEAL Team 5. SEAL Team 5 was Marcus Rivera's unit. They had been on standby since his capture signal was received. Now they got the call they'd been waiting for. Lieutenant Commander James Hayes read the mission brief in silence. Then he looked at his team. 28 operators, all volunteers, all trained to the same brutal standard as Marcus. "They want to know if we can pull this off," Hayes said. "Single ship insertion. Enemy fleet presence estimated at 40 vessels. Target is a bioship with 10,000 Crithian warriors aboard. Objective is to extract 1 personnel." He paused. "It's Marcus." Nobody said anything for a moment. Then the team's senior chief, a man named Rodriguez, spoke. "When do we leave?" Hayes smiled. 48 hours, full kit. "We're bringing him home." The room erupted in quiet activity. Weapons to check. Equipment to prep. Plans to review. This was what they trained for. What they lived for. No one left behind. Across the galaxy, in a pulsing organic cell, Marcus Rivera lay in darkness. His wounds had worsened. Infection burned through his body. He might have days left. Maybe less, but his implant kept broadcasting, kept telling Earth where he was, and Earth was coming. Soon, the Crithians would learn what the name Reaper really meant. They would learn what happened when you captured a human warrior. They would learn that humans kept their promises. All of them, especially the one about never leaving anyone behind. The stealth ship Ghost Runner dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Crithian fleet perimeter. It was a human design, built specifically for special operations, small, fast, and nearly invisible to standard sensors. Inside, 30 operators checked their gear one final time. SEAL Team 5 made up the core element, but they had brought specialists, Marine Raiders for additional firepower, 2 Delta Force operators who were experts in ship breaching, a combat medic who had seen action on 4 different worlds, all human, all volunteers, all here for one reason. Lieutenant Commander James Hayes stood at the front of the troop bay. He was a tall man with a weathered face and calm eyes. He had led men into combat for 15 years, had lost teammates, had carried bodies home, had made promises at funerals. Tonight, he intended to keep one of those promises. "Listen up," Hayes said. His voice was quiet but carried authority. "You all know the mission. Extract Marcus Rivera from a Crithian bioship. Intel says 10,000 hostiles aboard. They know we're coming because we're going to announce ourselves." A few grins appeared on bearded faces. SEALs didn't sneak when it was time to make a statement. "Rules of engagement are simple," Hayes continued. "Anyone between us and Marcus dies. We go in hard, we go in fast, and we bring our brother home. Questions?" Senior Chief Rodriguez raised his hand. "Do we have permission to blow the ship?" Hayes smiled. "We have permission to do whatever it takes. The tech boys loaded something special into our kit. You'll like it." The ship's pilot, a young woman named Chen, spoke over the intercom. "We're approaching insertion point. Bioship is holding position in the center of the fleet. 39 escort vessels detected. This is going to be interesting. That's why they pay us the big money," someone muttered. The operators stood and formed up. They wore advanced combat suits that could handle vacuum and provided some protection against energy weapons. Each man carried a primary weapon, a sidearm, breaching charges, and enough ammunition to fight a small war, because that's exactly what they were about to do. The Ghost Runner slid through the fleet like a shadow. Crithian sensors swept past them without detecting anything. Human stealth technology was good. Maybe the best in the coalition. They had learned from decades of submarine warfare on Earth, where silence meant survival. The bioship grew larger in the viewport. It was massive, a living vessel that looked more like a whale than a spacecraft. Organic armor plating covered its hull. Weapon pods dotted its surface. Somewhere inside that thing, Marcus was waiting. 30 seconds to breach point, Chen announced. The operators moved to the airlock. They had rehearsed this 100 times in simulation. Now it was real. 10 seconds. Hayes checked his rifle one last time. "Remember, we're not here to fight the whole ship. We're here for Marcus. Stay focused. Stay together. And if you see Vex Thor, he's mine." 5 seconds. The Ghost Runner matched velocity with the bioship. The hull was so close they could see the pulsing veins beneath the armor. Breach. The airlock blew open. Magnetic clamps shot out and locked onto the bioship's hull. Plasma cutters began slicing through the organic armor. It shrieked and bubbled as it burned. Inside the bioship, alarms erupted. Crithian warriors rushed toward the breach point, mandibles clicking with rage. The hull section fell away. The SEALs poured through the gap. What followed was controlled violence. The first Crithian through the corridor took 3 rounds center mass and went down. Then 5 more appeared. They died in a storm of gunfire that echoed through the organic passages. "Moving," Hayes called. The team advanced in a practiced pattern, 2 elements leapfrogging forward. One group provided cover while the other moved. They had done this on every continent on Earth in every type of terrain. The fact that they were now doing it in an alien bioship changed nothing. Crithian warriors poured into the corridor. The SEALs met them with precise, disciplined fire. No panic, no hesitation. Just training and muscle memory. A Crithian blade arm slashed at Rodriguez. He parried with his rifle, stepped inside the creature's reach, and put 2 rounds through its head. "It dropped! Contact rear!" someone shouted. The Marines pivoted and engaged targets behind them. The Crithians were trying to surround them. Classic tactics. It would have worked against most coalition forces. It didn't work against humans. Frag out. A grenade sailed down the corridor. The explosion cleared the path for 10 seconds. "Keep moving." They fought through 3 corridors, leaving bodies behind them. The bioship's organic walls ran with alien blood. The SEALs advanced relentlessly. In his cell, Marcus heard the explosions, heard the distant sound of gunfire. He knew those sounds, had made them himself countless times. M4 rifles, the distinctive bark of human weapons. His team had come. Marcus forced himself to sit up despite the pain. His infected shoulder screamed. His shattered knee barely functioned. but he needed to be ready. The membrane door to his cell burst inward. A Crithian guard entered, blade arms raised to kill the prisoner before rescue arrived. Marcus was waiting. He had spent 6 days working on his bonds. The organic restraints had weakened where they contacted his infected shoulder. The pus and blood had corroded them slightly. Not enough to break free normally, but nothing about this was normal. Marcus yanked hard. The restraints tore. His shoulder sent lightning bolts of agony through his body. He ignored it. The Crithian lunged. Marcus grabbed its blade arm and twisted, using the creature's own momentum against it, a move he had practiced 10,000 times. It worked just as well on aliens. The Crithian went down. Marcus fell on top of it, found its vulnerable neck joint and squeezed. His hands, trained to grapple and choke, did what they were designed to do. The creature stopped moving. Marcus took its weapon, a plasma rifle of some kind. He checked the charge, half full. Good enough. He limped to the door and looked out. The corridor was empty. The guards had gone to fight the intruders. Marcus moved toward the sound of gunfire. Hayes and his team fought their way deeper into the ship. They had studied the layout from intelligence data. The holding cells should be 3 levels down, Section 7, but getting there meant fighting through hundreds of Crithians. We need to move faster, Rodriguez said, reloading. Every warrior on this ship is converging on our position. Then we make them regret it, Hayes replied. One of the Delta operators, a man named Patterson, pulled out a device about the size of a backpack. I can give you faster. Breaching charge, big one. It'll drop us straight down 3 levels. Hayes nodded. Do it. They formed a perimeter while Patterson set the charge. Crithians pressed from both sides. The volume of fire increased. The SEALs held their ground, but ammunition was becoming a concern. 30 seconds. Patterson called. A massive Crithian, bigger than the others, charged through the gunfire. It was Vexthor. The Inquisitor had come to kill the invaders personally. Hayes stepped forward to meet him. You're the one who's been hurting my guy. Vexthor's mandibles clicked. You cannot win, human. You are 30. We are thousands. Yeah, Hayes said. But we're really good at this. He opened fire. Vexthor's armor absorbed the first few rounds, but Hayes kept shooting, targeting joints, weak points, the same places Marcus had taught them during briefings. Vexthor staggered. Hayes closed the distance and attached a magnetic charge to the Inquisitor's chest. That's for Marcus, Hayes said. He dove away. The charge detonated. Vexthor's armored body came apart. Charge set, Patterson yelled. Get back! The team clustered around the breach point. The charge blew. The floor vanished. They dropped 3 levels in controlled falls using rappel lines. They landed in a corridor lined with cell membranes. Somewhere here, Marcus was waiting. Marcus, Hayes called. It's Hayes! Sound off, a voice hoarse and rough answered from the darkness. About damn time, sir. They found him leaning against a wall holding a Crithian weapon covered in blood. Half of it was his own, but he was standing. He was alive. You look like hell, Reaper, Hayes said, gripping Marcus's good shoulder. You should see the other guys, Marcus replied. His smile was weak but genuine. Rodriguez moved in with a medical kit. Let's get you patched up. Later, Marcus said. We need to move. This whole ship is going to come down on you. Us, Hayes corrected. Come down on us. You're not alone anymore. Marcus nodded. They gave him fresh weapons and helped him walk. The team formed up around him, protecting their wounded brother. The fighting intensified as they moved toward extraction. But now Marcus was shooting too, despite his wounds. The Crithians had tortured him for 6 days. He made them regret it. The Ghost Runner pilot cut through waves of enemies. 30 humans fighting thousands. By every tactical calculation, they should have been overwhelmed. But calculations didn't account for training, for brotherhood, for the simple fact that humans excelled at exactly this kind of impossible mission. They reached the breach point. The Ghost Runner was waiting, weapons hot, covering their extraction. The SEALs poured through. Marcus went last, helped by Hayes. As they cleared the bioship, Patterson activated one more device, a computer virus designed specifically to target organic ship networks. They had planted it deep in the bioship's neural cortex. The Ghost Runner pulled away. Behind them, the bioship began to convulse. Its systems were failing, corrupted from within. 3 months after his rescue, Marcus Rivera stood in a briefing room at Coalition headquarters on Sanctuary Prime. His shoulder had healed, though it still ached when it rained. His knee would never be quite right again, but he could walk without limping. The scars were permanent, but scars were just proof you survived. The room was full of coalition military leaders. Felorian, Serathis, beings from a dozen different species. They all wanted to understand what had happened. How 30 humans had penetrated a Crithian fleet, extracted a prisoner from a bioship holding 10,000 warriors, and escaped successfully. Commander Silith stood at the front. She had requested this briefing personally. Staff Sergeant Rivera, she began. Your rescue has become the most analyzed military operation in Coalition history. We would like to understand how such a mission was possible. Marcus glanced at Hayes, who nodded. Permission to speak freely. It's simple, ma'am, Marcus said. They came for me because that's what we do. We don't leave people behind. A Serothi general clicked his claws skeptically, but the odds were impossible. 30 against thousands. Standard coalition doctrine would never approve such a mission. The risk-to-reward calculation makes no sense. We don't calculate that way, Hayes interjected. Every one of my team members is worth the risk. If the situation was reversed, Marcus would have come for any of them. But why? Another officer asked. From a strategic standpoint, one operator is not worth losing 30 more. Marcus felt anger flash through him, but kept his voice level. Because operators aren't numbers on a spreadsheet. They're brothers. They're family. And you don't abandon family. Silith's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. This is a cultural difference. Most coalition species view military personnel as expendable resources. Losing one to save the many is logical. Maybe, Marcus said. But that logic breaks morale. It breaks trust. If soldiers think they'll be abandoned when things go bad, they won't fight as hard. They won't take risks. They'll always be looking for the exit. He stood straighter despite his injuries. Humans fight differently. We fight harder because we know our team will never leave us. That knowledge makes us willing to do impossible things. Like surviving 6 days of torture without breaking, Silith noted. Your interrogation footage has been studied extensively. Fexthor used methods that have broken other species in hours. Yet you revealed nothing, Marcus shrugged. Seer training. We practice resistance to interrogation. We learn to compartmentalize pain. And I knew my team was coming. I just had to buy them time, a Valorian admiral spoke up. Your neural implant transmitted continuously during your captivity. This was planned? Yes, sir. Dead man switch. Standard protocol for special operations. If we're captured, our command knows exactly where we are. And you trusted they would come? Marcus met the admiral's 6 eyes. Absolutely. Because they always have. That's the deal. We volunteer for the dangerous missions. We walk into the fire. And if we fall, someone will pull us out. Hayes added, it's not just policy, it's culture. We build that trust from day one of training. Hell Week isn't just about physical endurance. It's about learning to rely on your teammates, learning that you can't succeed alone. This is why your selection has such a high failure rate, Silith said. You are not just training bodies. You are forging bonds. Exactly, Hayes confirmed. By the time someone earns their trident, they've suffered alongside their classmates. They've nearly drowned together, nearly frozen together. They've carried each other through the worst training we can devise. That shared suffering creates unbreakable connections. A younger officer, a Serothi lieutenant, raised a claw hesitantly. I have been researching human special operations. You give your warriors earned names. Reaper, Ghost, Phantom. Why? Marcus smiled slightly. Call signs. They're based on personality or something you did. Sometimes they're compliments. Sometimes they're jokes. But they're earned, not assigned. And yours? Reaper? I'd rather not say, Marcus replied. The room waited. He sighed. Fine. Early in my career, we were clearing a building. Hostile territory. I was the last man in the stack. By the time I got inside, my team had already cleared 3 rooms. I cleared the last 5 by myself before they even realized I'd broken off. 17 hostiles total. My team leader said I reaped them like wheat. The name stuck. The room was silent for a moment. Then the Serothi lieutenant spoke again. You killed 17 enemy combatants alone? This is normal for humans? Not normal, Hayes said. That's why he's a SEAL. That's why he earned the name. Our special operations forces represent the top 1% of our military. They can do things that seem impossible because they've trained to do impossible things. Silith pulled up data on her screen. Since Rivera's rescue, we have seen significant changes in the war. Krathian forces are more cautious when engaging human units. They appear to fear your warriors. Good, Marcus said simply. But we need to understand this for strategic purposes. Your rescue mission destroyed a bioship worth billions in resources and killed thousands of Krathian warriors. This sent a message. But what message exactly? Hayes stood. The message is simple. Don't capture our people, because we will come for them. We will sacrifice ships, resources, warriors, whatever it takes, and we will make you regret it. This seems inefficient, the Valorian admiral noted. Maybe, Hayes agreed, but it works. After Marcus's rescue, how many human operators have been captured by Krathians? Syleth checked her data. None. They kill humans in combat now rather than taking prisoners. Exactly. They learned the lesson. Capturing a human operator isn't worth what comes next. Marcus added. It's also a message to our own people. Every SEAL, every Marine Raider, every Delta operator knows that if they're captured, we're coming. That knowledge gives them confidence. It makes them effective. The briefing continued for another hour. Coalition officers asked about tactics, training methods, equipment. Hayes and Marcus answered what they could while keeping operational security in mind. As it ended, the Sarathi lieutenant approached Marcus privately. May I ask a personal question? Sure. During your captivity, you smiled when asked about your call sign. Why? Marcus remembered that moment. The pain, the infection, the certainty of his team's arrival. Because I knew what was coming. Vexthor thought he had won by capturing me. But he'd actually signed his own death warrant. He just didn't know it yet. You were confident in your rescue? Absolutely. That's the deal we make. I trust my team with my life. They trust me with theirs. That trust is worth more than any weapon or technology. The lieutenant clicked thoughtfully. My species does not have this. We train soldiers, but we do not forge brotherhood. Perhaps this is why we are less effective in combat. It's never too late to learn, Marcus said. Start small. Build teams. Train together. Suffer together. Trust will follow. 6 months later, the Sarathi military began implementing small unit tactics based on human models. Other coalition species followed. The concept of elite special operations forces spread through the galaxy. But more than tactics, they learned philosophy. The idea that warriors were not expendable resources but valuable individuals worth rescuing. That loyalty and trust were force multipliers. That sometimes the impossible mission was worth attempting. The war with the Krathians continued, but it had changed. Human operators trained coalition forces. Mixed teams began running joint operations. And everywhere humans fought, they brought their culture with them. Leave no one behind. Fight for your brothers. Earn your name through deeds. Simple concepts, but powerful ones. Marcus returned to active duty 6 months after his rescue. His knee wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. He was offered a training position, a chance to step back from combat. He declined. I'm not done yet, he told Hayes. I didn't think you were, Hayes replied. Welcome back to the team, Reaper. The name had spread beyond SEAL Team 5 now. Across the coalition, warriors knew the story of the human who had endured torture without breaking, who had been rescued against impossible odds, who had earned his call sign through skill and courage. Reaper became more than a name. It became a symbol, proof that humans were different, that they kept their promises, that they never gave up. Krathian forces learned to fear that name. When intelligence reported that Reaper was operating in a sector, Krathian commanders adjusted their tactics. Increased security, avoided small unit engagements. One human operator had changed the strategic calculus of an entire war. But Marcus didn't think about that. He focused on the mission, on his team, on the work. That's what SEALs did. They didn't fight for glory or recognition. They fought for each other. 2 years after his capture, the war ended. The Krathians, worn down by human tactics and coalition persistence, sued for peace. The treaty was signed on Sanctuary Prime. At the ceremony, a Krathian diplomat approached Marcus. You are the one they call Reaper. I am. I must tell you something. Your capture and rescue changed our strategic thinking. We realized that fighting humans was different from fighting other coalition species. You do not calculate odds. You do not surrender when logic says you should. You fight with a ferocity that defies reason. We fight for each other, Marcus said. That's all. That is everything, the diplomat replied.